Hey, welcome to this page that's designed to introduce you to the Ultimate Freedom Teachings. Okay, ready? Drum roll, please. Okay, now we can officially begin. This page is designed to start a three-step process that will have 3 videos that are designed to introduce you deeper and deeper into the Ultimate Freedom Teachings, if that's something that you're interested in. And it's specifically designed for people like you who already have some experience with the teachings that I've shared. I'm sure you've seen that all over my website I branch people into new to the teachings, experienced with the teachings. Now, this first video is going to be a little bit about my story, what happened on my journey through the cloud cover, how the Ultimate Freedom Teachings were born, what they're all about, and why you might want to consider exploring them and participating in them. The second video will be about what you actually receive. If you were to choose to enroll and participate in the Ultimate Key to Freedom experience, what are what I call the deliverables? What would you actually get? What would you actually receive as part of the overall experience? And then the third video will be about what can you expect to happen in your life? What kinds of changes, transformations, expansions, whatever you want to call it, in terms of what will actually change in your life. And that one may interest you the most, but please go through the 3 videos sequentially because it's important that you move that way in terms of getting a clear picture of the whole thing. In this first video, my story, how the Ultimate Freedom Teachings were born, what they're all about, I'm going to be brief and touch on some key highlights. If you want to know more about this particular topic, and you haven't done so already, if you look to the top of this page, if you're watching the video on my website, you'll see a Send Training button at the top. There's a purple bar that shows up at the top of every page on my website except the main page, the first page of the website. Register for that training as an experienced person, and you'll get a lot more detail through an email and video series that will unfold over time if you want to know more. So, my story, how the Ultimate Freedom Teachings were born. What actually happened is I embraced what I call the Phase 2 Busting Loose model and the 4 tools, and I embraced the model and used the tools aggressively, religiously for 6.5 years. For me, and it's not a rule or a formula, it's just what happened with me, I embraced the model and used the tools, and it took about 3 years of doing that before there were major changes. There were little changes along the way, but in my story, it took 3 years, and then major changes started to happen as more and more sunshine started to shine in. And then from that 3-year to the 6.5-year point, no aspect of my life was left untouched. Everything was changed in extraordinary ways. Now, I say that no aspect of my life was left untouched. Everything changed in extraordinary ways, and I was very well aware of the fact that if there was some ultimate destination of being in truth with a capital T, living in truth with a capital T, Phase 3, pure sunshine shining, I knew I had not reached that point. I had no idea what it would be like to reach that point. I knew it would be amazing, but I knew I wasn't there. Despite that, I was enjoying lots of changes. I was enjoying lots of sunshine. I was enjoying lots of transformation and was having a lot of fun. And didn't know what to expect. I was really just going about my business. And after 6.5 years, I was still in Phase 2, but I just naturally stopped using the tools. And so I was just living my life. I used the tools aggressively for the 6.5 years, as I mentioned. And then I was still in Phase 2, but I wasn't using the tools. I was just living my life. And as time passed, as more and more sunshine began to shine in, and as it became time in my story for me to go deeper into truth and finally make that leap into Phase 3 and what I now call Phase 3, Ultimate Freedom, extraordinary things started to happen, and they happened on their own. I didn't ask for them. They weren't goals. They weren't targets. They weren't intentions. I had a general intention to go deeper into truth with a capital T, make the leap into Phase 3, play in the sunshine, but it was a general behind-the-scenes kind of a quiet goal, if you will. I wasn't doing anything to try to make it happen, and then all of a sudden one day something started to happen. And I now divide what happens to us in our day-to-day lives into two things, what I call inner space and story space. Story space is another label for what we used to call the hologram, three-dimensional reality, the universe, physical reality, the illusion, whatever. It's what appears to be outside of you, including your body. I call that story space. It's where life happens, if you will. You know what I mean. My new label is story space, and if you get involved with the teachings, you'll find out why that's such a perfect label, and a different label and a much more relevant label than the labels I used to use. Inner space, as it might suggest, is everything that happens inside of you. And if you look at what happens inside of you, there's really only three things. You have thoughts that take different shapes. You have feelings/emotions, same thing, different word. And you have sensations that tend to be related to the body in the way that you define them. So what began to happen is, as more and more sun began to shine, all of a sudden, I started to experience, first to understand and then to experience with a capital E, radical shifts in both inner space and story space. How I was seeing, how I was experiencing being in a truthful with a capital T relationship with thoughts, feelings, and sensations in inner space and everything that was happening in story space. And I began to actually have first just a hint, just a whisper, just a taste, and then more and more and more and more of a direct and a consistent experience of who I really am and who you really are. What I used to call expanded self, what I used to call consciousness, you may have had a different label, what I now call true creative essence. With the earlier teachings, the Busting Loose Phase 2 teachings, I had an intellectual understanding that that's who I really was. And I had an intellectual understanding that it was all an illusion and that it was all about playing the human game and all the things that you know about. But a lot of those things weren't experiential to me. I knew they were true, but it was more of an idea and a concept. It was more understanding. It hadn't dropped down to full experience, but it dropped down to full experience in this particular segment. And as these things rippled out, and as I got more and more clear, and as the experience of truth with a capital T, truthful with a capital T relationship to everything in inner space, everything in story space rippled out, it was such a radical and surprising and in some cases shocking, and never saw it coming, never suspected it, never thought about it. And even though I realized later on that I had read some things in some spiritual teachings or whatever that were in the same kind of a realm or similar, not the same, but similar, it still seemed shocking to me when it actually became experiential. And it was such a big deal that because my character plays what you might call the writing, teaching, speaking, coaching game, I realized I needed to create something in order to pass this along. And the thing that was so important to me, and that ultimately I think you've experienced to one degree or not, is that true transformation with capital T's does not happen until something that perhaps you understood intellectually, you understood at the idea and the concept level, drops down to experience with a capital E. You actually experience it. You don't just understand it, you don't just think about it, you don't just get the idea and concept. It isn't just that you could pass a test, get an A on a test with the facts and figures and stuff about it, but it drops down to actually experiencing it. That's where the miracles happen, and that's what happens when more and more sunshine shines in. Now again, my new label, my new label for who you really are, who I really am, is true creative essence. So on this journey where all these things that I just said happened, it was like true creative essence was my inner mentor, my inner teacher, my inner coach, whatever you want to call it. And true creative essence took me on this journey and created these experiences and created these opportunities for me to see and first understand and then experience more and more truth with a capital T, make the leap into phase 3, ultimate freedom, fully awaken my story. And so I wanted to share this stuff. I wanted to create a similar experience because what I was experiencing was so amazing and so surprising, and again, nothing I suspected, and it was off the charts extraordinary. And because I play the game of teaching, coaching, speaking, whatever, I wanted to find a way to, at the story level as I now call it, support, facilitate, empower, whatever you want to call it, others to have the same experience. So the challenge that appeared was, I had this experience that without me using any techniques, without me using any tools, without me using any practices, without me doing anything on a day-to-day basis, trying to produce this. It just happened because I was taken on this journey by this inner mentor, True Creative Essence, who I really am. So I thought to myself, okay, ultimately that's what it always is anyway. But since I, at the story level, am playing the role of, speaker, coach, writer, trainer, whatever you want to call it, it was okay. True Creative Essence played the role of mentor for me. Inside of me it all happened. But if I'm going to play the role in story space, maybe I could play that same role with other people and facilitate the same thing happening for them, support the same thing happening for them that happened for me, that caused, bear with the language, ultimate freedom to fully awake, the leap into phase 3. And I was fascinated to see how that all unfolded, because that's what happened. The ultimate freedom teachings were born in order to create that same dynamic, to replicate what happened to me, that happened with an inner mentor. And if you take this journey or if you don't, you still have an inner mentor. There's still True Creative Essence that can mentor you, so to speak, do these kinds of things in your story. But if it's been written into your story for me to help and to play that role, then what's been created here is that opportunity for me to play the role of facilitator, to guide you, support you, inspire you, open a gateway, to allow the final leap into phase 3 to happen, ultimate freedom to fully awaken in your story, which is my language. It's the best I've come up with to describe what happens. And that's what the ultimate freedom experience is all about. And that's why I'll tell you more about it in the next video. But that's what it's designed to do. It's not designed to give you more cool ideas and concepts and things you could get an A on a test with, or you could go tell other people, oh God, I discovered this amazing spiritual philosophy. It's not about that. And it's not about giving you a bunch of new techniques or tools that you can use to knock out the cloud cover faster. The cloud cover does knock out faster on this path, and it can be extraordinarily fast, much faster than using the tools, although using the tools and it appearing to unfold over multiple years, slower for me was the perfect thing for me. It has been for other people all over the world, and it may be for you too. And the reality is, with the ultimate freedom teachings, the cloud cover can be knocked out at a much more accelerated rate, but without using tools or techniques or methods or something that you do every day. It's extraordinary. The experience itself, and I'll talk more about this in the next video, the experience itself is designed to create massive change in the cloud cover, dissolve massive amounts of cloud cover, drill through massive amounts of cloud cover at a very accelerated pace, and allow the experience that we call phase 3, I call ultimate freedom, I call playing in the sunshine, to awaken on its own without you having to use tools and stuff. So that's a quick introduction. Again, if you want to know more about everything that I just said, and you haven't already, go to the top of any page on my website other than the first page or the page you're on now if you're watching this streaming on my website. Register for the training, the Ultimate Freedom Training, that you'll see at that bar at the top as an experienced with the teachings user, and you can find out more about it. To continue, beneath this video, you'll see a purple button that says something like, tell me what I'll receive, tell me what's included, whatever. I think it's tell me what I'll receive through the Ultimate Key to Freedom experience. And so I invite you to click on that button, continue to the next video where I'll tell you what you actually receive. And then you'll have the opportunity to go in the third video that I know you really want to watch, which is what can you expect? What are the specific changes, transformations, shifts, whatever that you can expect? But again, please go sequentially. I promise you'll be glad that you did. So thanks for listening. If you downloaded this, in a minute you'll see a link to a page where you can get the next video because you won't see the purple button, obviously. And I invite you to take that next step. Let us know if there's anything we can do to be of assistance to you at all. And on that note, I'll just say thanks for stopping by. Thanks for listening. Nice chatting with you. And I'll look forward to our next form of contact, whatever shape that takes. Bye-bye for now. Click on that button to take the next step.